Hello, students. In the classical term that we are going to study, the classicism and Longinus, we were discussing in our last lecture. We have seen Longinus as one of the Greek famous Roman theorist who propounded how to create or how to generate the classical literature. The five sources of sublimity he propounded are grandeur of thought, capacity to feel strong emotions, proper use of figures of thoughts and speech, noble diction, and dignified word arrangement. हे पाच रिसोर्सेस कुठल्याही कवीकडे ग्रेट साहित्य किंवा सबलाईम असं लिटरेचर निर्माण करण्यासाठी आवश्यक आहे. पहिले दोन सोर्सेस जे आहेत ग्रँडर ऑफ थॉट अँड कॅपॅसिटी टू फील स्ट्रॉंग इमोशन्स, हे दोन रिसोर्सेस हे इनबॉर्न जिनियस असतात, ते जन्मजात मिळत असतात. But the poet's latent talent should be disciplined and brought into order by technique. That is what Longinus describes the sublimity as a harmonious balance between the inborn genius and honed, means मिळवलेलं technique. Longinus also discusses the faults which prevent a work from achieving sublimity. मग जे गोष्टी उत्तम साहित्य उत्कृष्ट साहित्य निर्माण करण्यासाठी अडचणीचं असतं असं कोणतं आहे that we have to study also. And that is turgidity, which arises when the author aims at a grandeur but instead writes in a bombastic and insincere style, is the first fault. The second fault is puerility, which means that the childish behavior. It arises when an author's writing and ideas are shallow and lacking in real substance. Puerility. Third one is parenthesis. It's a false sentiment. This overuse of emotions, whereby extremely used, may be a cold, may be insensitive, and it creates the problem in the proper understanding and achieving sublimity. And that is what such a literature may go into say insignificance or trivial. Longinus, it's a kind of this particular tendency is to find the faults with the poetry. Longinus' views on the background of a rhetorical tradition which describes good writing, it's a mix of talent, and these classical views about the Longinus that we see seen. So in the classical era, Plato and Aristotle, we have seen are working and practicing the false and imitative, morally corrupt charges leveled by Plato against poetry and Aristotle, and along with other classical theorists, we are finding them to earn the recognition for the poetry, and that is what we have seen. Aristotle defended poetry against the Plato's charges by imitating living actions, so to refine human faculties, provide an outlet for negative emotions. And he further stated that the grand style and themes, decorum and moderation, were what characterized the good literary works. Other important critics included Horace and Longinus. Horace was the Roman critic who authored Ars Poetica, and Longinus, the Roman classicist who identified sublime element in on the sublime topic or dissertation. The great works of literature both influenced the 18th century movement, and that is Romanticism. So, like this, we have seen the classicism and its literary significance. We just need to think about in the classicism what makes us or what appeals us is the Aristotle's philosophy, Aristotle's theory. He argued with Plato on the nature of the poetry. It's an imitation, but imitation is a different one. Aristotle begins the varieties of art forms. And these poetry, music, or dancing, painting, sculpture, all forms of imitation, they differ from each other in three aspects, and these aspects are, as we have seen in the first semester, medium of imitation, art forms present human action through rhythm, language, and melody. They employ the mediums, and these three mediums are combined. For example, music uses rhythm and melody only. Dance uses rhythm alone, and poetry uses all these mediums together. So, medium of imitation makes the difference. Object of imitation, all art forms present human men in action with different objects. Poetry presents men as better, true to life, and verse. Homer presents better men. Mode of imitation. In their modes of imitation, in case of poetry, imitation may be performed. The narration where the poet becomes another personality, narration in one's own person, narration where the poet presents all characters in action. While providing a brief account of the origin and history of poetry, Aristotle states two reasons for the rise of poetry. It's a man's natural tendency to imitate the things. Man's tendency, poet and poetry, were two different kinds. Tragedy, he further on discussed in his poetics. Originally, he advocated and given much more scope to the tragedy and comedy and epic and lyric poetry. Aristotle has given very less pages to write on. But tragedy, as we have seen, constitutes in the chapters, chapter number 6 to 10, contains the views on tragedy. Plato is the most important element in all. He propounded his theory and he characterizes few things that are not acceptable to Aristotle. So we have the definition of or refutation of the charges leveled against poetry by Plato. So, like this, we have discussed the classicism, and this classical theory or classicism, features of classicism that you have just seen on the screen, or you can take the screenshots. You will find that these are just simple, but our lecture, if you listen carefully, will tell you more, will reveal you more about the discussion and the theorist who propounded their critical theories in so over the centuries or over the years, so in their respective so-called work of arts. So we have to collect them, and for more reading you can go through original or translated text from these resources. You will find in various types of library. Even you will get these PDF form books on the internet. So like this. So I hope you will listen and really listen carefully so that your understanding of this particular subject will improve. Thank you.